Welcome to Tackle Fanatics TV, and in this episode of TFTV you get a chance to see Korda's big hit fishing masterclass with Team Korda.
Well, it's been the first real cold morning of the year. Would you agree, Mr. Spooner?
Absolutely, mate.
We've come to Brasenose 2 on the Linear Fisheries Complex. The plan, if you like, is to put on a big hit fishing masterclass. But the carp may have other ideas. But as the fog's lifted, so is our hope, because that rod absolutely roared off, didn't it, mate?
It did, mate. I mean, we've been obviously working the spots as much as possible. I only just finished putting a few spods out, 3 or 4 spots, just to use a phrase, we've rung the dinner bell again.
Yeah, no worries, yeah, ringing the dinner bell. What we're going to try to show you in this part of the film is actually how we try to amass a big hit, okay? That's going to be from finding the features, the bait that we use, the rigs that we use, clipping up, frequency of baiting, all of the important things that we get asked about loads on Facebook and Twitter all of the time. It's trying to help you get an idea of how we do it. But if the weather does play against us, we might be doing a cold water masterclass. So we're going to play it by ear because, like I say, the weather has turned, and often when you get a drop in temperature this time of year, the fish can switch off a little bit, but the light levels have changed. And I've told you, Neil, haven't I, from the filming that I've done here with the junior champs and everything else, the fish tend to move up that end of the lake in the dark, yeah, and tend to come back down here in the light. And it's no coincidence. I'd say it's cleared for what, half an hour, would you say?
Tops.
Yeah, and it's literally nearly lunchtime, so the light levels seem to play a part, and I've noticed it here all the time. This part of the lake seems to be better when it's you know, nice and bright, and the fish move back down in the main body. So we're going to get this one in, and hopefully we can crack on with loads of those tips, loads of ideas, giving you something to apply to your fishing as well. One of the important parts about this type of fishing, especially if you're doubled up on the point like we are here, is to work as a team. And you'll notice, hopefully we'll get this one in because we're not too far away, and the first thing Neil's going to do is put his bait back out, feed the swim, and tell you all about the bait. So go on, get out there, do that. Mate. Go on, son.
Right, the first fish is safely in the net, but before I get another rod in the water, the most important thing is to give them a little bit more food. Now, there's a lot of fish in Brasenose, you know, a big bulk of them tend to stay together in a shoal, and they've come across my spot. I've had a bite, they might have cleared me out for all I know, and they could easily just move on to someone else's bait. I don't want that to happen, so I want to give them a few more spods of bait just so they know there's a bit more bait trickling down. Onto the spod mix itself, it is very important what you put in. I start off with the ever faithful mainline cell boilies. I've got some crushed up in there first. I've then followed it with some 14 mils and some 10 mils for good measure, just to keep them guessing so they're not quite sure what's coming next. After that, I've added a bag of sweet corn, and you'll have seen from the underwater footage exactly how much carp love that bait. It can turn them from not being that interested to really getting their heads down. And on linear especially, these carp have seen it so often, they know it's food. After that, I've put some pellets in. I've got some ellipse pellets, about 8 mil in size, not the tiniest ones. I don't want to preoccupy them on them. They're just a few out there that they can muscle around in, letting off nice levels of attraction, again, pulling the fish down to my spot. Then there's a bit of hemp. Now, in the past, I used to absolutely fill my spod mix with hemp, but all that I tend to find you do is get them totally preoccupied on it. It can be very, very difficult to get a bite. So now it's just a couple of handfuls. That oily goodness leaking off, again, just pulling them down into my mixture. On top of that, I've added a nice glaze of tiger nut goo. It's a new one coming out, and it's just nice, natural, sweet flavours. Again, something else in the swim that's drawing this pack of fish into my area. Give it a good stir up to get it all mixed up, so it's all mixed in together, as you can see in the bucket. And then finally, I've added some maggots to the mix as well. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually allergic to them. They give me a nasty head cold, get a horrible allergic reaction, a bit like hay fever. Not a nice thing, but if that's what the carp want, if that's what's going to turn them on, then I've got to have them in my mix. There we go, that's the mix. I'm going to get this back in now, get another rod back out and see if we can nick another one. Right, when doing this sort of fishing, when fishing over particle, and in particular when fishing on a really firm bottom like I am today, my favourite hooklink material is hybrid stiff. Now, it's an incredibly stiff hooklink, as the name would suggest, and I use it in really, really short lengths, just sort of 5 or 6 inches. This one in particular is on, I'm fishing 5 inches at the moment. Give it a little steam over the kettle and it goes poker straight. So I know that as soon as that lands, once balanced with I've got critically balanced wafter hook baits on, that have been soaked in the new, well, some of the new goos. These bites have come on the new tiger nut one that you've already seen me put into the Spod mix. That's their knotless knotted, very, very simply, 7-turn knotless knot to a size 6 crank hook. And that type of pattern is just so aggressive. It's got an incredibly wide gape, an offset point, a short shank, and it just appears that, you know, wherever it touches flesh in the carp's mouth, that's where it's going to hook it. This fish really is not playing ball. He's going well right.
Come to the rescue with the net, me old chum.
Cheers, mate.
I was hiding out. I managed to get a rain jacket on. But no, it's really, really important to say that the stuff that you put out there, you know, it's really critical. It doesn't tangle. It's always fishing nice and clean. So Neil's got his, you know, his favoured hybrid leg clip setup. It's all just there. You're confident that you're always fishing. Again, vital. We see it on the underwater film all the time. There's lots of fish here. You're going to be getting picked up. You're not going to hook them all. That rig's got to go back out, hasn't it, and keep fighting. I call them punch bag rigs.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. The wafter hook baits as well that Neil's using, that really helps, because if you imagine, if it was a straight bottom bait, if a fish picked it up and blew it back out, sometimes it can sink right back down by the lead or in a funny position because it's quite heavy. When you've got a wafter, it obviously kicks away from the lead system and settles nicely. So every time a fish picks it up, that sort of buoyancy to the hair and everything else just moves it all away from the lead system and just keeps you fishing. And like I say, these type of lakes, you're getting that plenty of times. Fish coming in, picking it up, blowing it out until one properly nails itself. But I think you're increasing your chances with the setup you've got on, haven't you? And that crank hook, wide gape, everything like that.
As you said, mate, you're putting everything in your favour. I notice it in particular on the underwater filming, the amount of rigs that get picked up, they get dropped again, and that's kind of it. They're not really fishing anymore, are they?
Yeah, that's day ticket carping, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well?
exactly.
Law of averages, using what you're confident in. If you were using, say, a braided Hooklink out there, it just isn't the one, I don't think. It's like one chance saloon. You could have a roach, anything come in, trash the spot, and you've got one of your rigs that probably isn't fishing as effectively as something like a hybrid stiff Hooklink that punches back out. It's got that little bit of combi at the end just to give it that piece of movement, but ultimately it just keeps on coming out, fighting and fighting and fighting, and there you go, proof in the pudding. I see as well, you've sort of whittled a bit away there. Is that just to change the buoyancy slightly?
Yeah, it was, mate. It was just, I like my bait to be, there we go.
Yeah, go on.
I like my bait to sit on the bait. I don't like it actually waft. Even though it's a wafting hook bait, I still prefer it just on the deck. I think sometimes that can put them off.
Yeah,
so just whittle it away until the hook's nice and flat and the bait's just touching the deck. Mwah.
Nice tip.
Perfecto.
Go and clean your glasses. There you go, mate. This is it. This is what we're on about, Masterclass.
So, right, who cares if it's raining?
Yeah, exactly. You ain't even had a chance to clean your glasses, to be fair. So,
well, no.
And the lens is getting littered probably with rain as well at the same time. But this is what we're on about. He's got one rod on the rest, putting those spods back out on the area, and that's what happens. The shoals moving, like I say, they come back down the middle of that lake, I think, as the morning builds, and you start nailing them. And if you haven't got food in there, you ain't going to catch them because they'll just bypass you. You might nick one, but what he's done, he's nicked 3, and that's the difference. Oh, don't know, did I get a little bleep?
Little bleepage?
Yeah, there you go. It's probably birds on me, mate. There's none on you. It's always birds on me.
Always, mate.
But they're coming in nicely. Now, the important thing here as well is frequency of baiting, okay? Not only are you going to bait up when you've had fish, it's important to keep putting a little bit in time after time. If you just do it at the start of the session, for example, you put, I don't know, 20 spods out, that's great. But a lot of people, what they do is they put a load out and then they sit on it and they're not doing anything to activate the swim. I'll help you there, mate, if you want. Just keep it going in, keep the food going in. You know, even if it's 1 or 2 spods, it's a little bit of noise, it just gets it going. But here we go, let me come around the front, little dance move. There you go, hybrid leg clips, done its job, lead's off.
Absolutely.
And there's still quite a lot of weed in this place as well, especially banks of it as you come up the marginal shelf. So
here he comes.
Here we go. There we are, Spooner. You're running out of nets, mate.
There we are, mate. I've still got a rod ready to go out though, mate.
Good, good. Best practice. Well done.
Yeah.
Top man.
Well, there we go. The first of the 20-minute hat trick. This one coming in at £20.12. Not a bad way to start the session. We'll weigh the other ones in a second and see what else we got. Happy days. Well, here we go. It was fish number 2, that mad little spell. We went just a fraction under £20, so I'm well chuffed. We've already had number 3 out. It was a small little mirror, probably about 12 or 13 pound, but they are all very, very welcome. Because I'm pretty greedy though, I want to get this one back, get me rods back out and just see if I can have a few more.
Double take. Well, contrary to common belief, and unbelievably, after saying it was going to be a big hit, it is actually turning out that way. But a lot of people, like I say, contrary to common belief, they seem to think that we have swims roped off for weeks on end and a team Korda turn up and it's all been baited up and we just start catching because of that. But actually, the reason is what we've been showing you, doing it right, you know, how you feed the swim. And like Spooner's done it, I've kept doing the same things, kept ringing the dinner bell, 2 or 3 spods every 30-40 minutes because I know fish are now in the area, so it's about getting that interest. But if you have a look around any of these lakes a lot of the time, unless you get one of them good anglers on, often what you'll see is a bit of bait goes out, 5 hours of nothing. Sit down, drink a beer, watch the telly, watch a DVD, and this is proof in the pudding. I've had one and literally I've just swept the net under it and the other rod has roared off. And that's what happens when you get it right, when you've got everything accurate, pinpoint, this is what happens. This is why we call it big hit fishing, because it's all on the money and it's just waiting for the fish to turn up and feed. But if you don't do anything, then why do the fish need to come in that swim, you know? There could be something happening elsewhere that just draws that shoal to them. So by just ringing that dinner bell, drawing fish into the swim, that's what happens. Now moving on to the rig, I've got to admit the lead system that I've got on, the actual product that makes it all possible, is something that I've been excited about. Well, I've never been as excited about this regarding a Korda product. It's called the HeliSafe, and you may remember last year on the Masterclass, fishing Gigantica, I was using chod rigs, naked chods, fishing at about 130 yards, and I was having to put a contraption together to allow me to use a big lead at range on a helicopter system and for it to drop off. But the HeliSafe, thank God to the heavens, has made it possible that you don't need to come up with any contraption, you don't need to make any loops with armour cord or pull bits of lead core through a sleeve. Literally, it's a spring-loaded mechanism that comes in a few little bits, just slides onto the line, has half a swivel that plugs into another section inside it. It all clips together nicely, and it, like I say, spring loaded, and then all you do is just clip your lead on. It is a very, very ingenious product, which means you can use helicopter leads now at range with heavy leads and chod rigs, and you don't need to worry about having sort of that lead bouncing around their mouths with a short hook link, which is often the problem when you use big leads and helicopter rigs. Everything becomes really close down there, and if you've got a big lead, it actually almost works like a disgorger and helps sometimes pull the hook out. So it's an absolute worldie of a product, to be honest. And if you're fishing in weed, you're fishing at range and you want that lead off, then you can use it like that. But, and I know what you're thinking, oh yeah, Korda making us drop our leads. That's not the case actually, because if you don't want to drop your lead and you want to use it as a conventional clip, it comes with another little part that clips in there, and you can quite simply just add that in, lock it off, and you can fish it so the lead doesn't come off. Like this one here, I've fished that exactly like that. I've kept it on, and on this occasion, this clip, lead's on. So you can see one's without it, and the other one is with it. So, perfect, couldn't have turned out better. And this one, a squid goo hook bait and a very big brazen-nose mirror carp. How about that? Well, here we go, we've weighed the big one. This was the, well, my second one of that mad little spell, 25 1/4. And the one that Spooner had, along with the other smaller one that I caught first, they were just typical Brasenose 2 mid doubles. But this one, like I say, 25 1/4, big old fat thing. And you know what, just deserts for all that hard work we've put in. And this old crazy hat I'm wearing, that's pretty befitting of that mad little spell. Awesome, no rods out in the water, time for some food, and then I think we'll carry on with this little Brasenose adventure. Well, here we go. The rods haven't been out too long, probably about 20 minutes. Me and Spooner both, like sequential ballerinas, managed to put a few spods out as well together. Saw a big old slick come up, and I would say about 5 minutes after, this rod has rattled off. Now, I spoke to you about the lead system that I'm using, but the rig, well, it's fair to say it's pretty famous now. I'd say possibly as famous as the Iqd Rig. It's the Iqd Rig, made famous by our very own gaffer, Danny. I saw him first use it on Gigantica quite a few years back now. Feels like a few years ago anyway. And he done so well, caught so many monsters. And I remember looking at that rig at the time, and to be honest, I didn't fancy it. I don't know why. Just sometimes you look at something and think, yeah, it's not for me. It's a little bit too stiff. Doesn't have any movement at the end. And it's fair to say, you couldn't be more wrong. Similar to, you know, a pop-up on a stiff rig like the Iqd that sits up. This one sits flat, but it always corrects itself. It always kicks back out. And obviously you saw Danny be mega successful on Gigantica with it. But then when we saw underwater proof of how good that rig was, then we needed no further evidence. I think the first time I ever saw it nail something, it was the big plated. You're probably bored of us talking about it, but I've never seen, if carp could look frightened, that fish really did when it got nailed. And it's actually quite an easy rig to tie. If you can master that knot, the part that actually connects to the hook to start forming the D, it's like a whipping knot, then the rest of it's really easy, because all you do then is slide on a micro rig swivel and then quite simply finish it with a knotless knot. But if you don't fancy making a rig yourself, hang on, this one's got me in a bit of strife, I think. Come on, this will test the rig. Well, I'll carry on telling you about the Iqd rig in a minute. This has snarled me up in a bit of weed, which, even though it's late on into November, there are still big beds of weed on Brasenose 2, and sometimes they have a habit of going behind one and then swimming into the bank low, and they get themselves head first into one of them. So all I'm doing now is just slackening off a bit in my hand, not going too slack, and letting it go semi-tight. It's literally, it's gone from right to left past Spooner's rods. And to be fair, it's gone past the angler next door, so hopefully we can get this back. Oh, watch this. Here we go. Watch the line tighten, everyone. Here we go. Let's go. Here we go, and we're out. Don't want to give it the old Blue Peter one, but that's one I prepared earlier, to be fair. I've done that a few times to get me out of a pickle. Love it when a plan comes together. Right, now I did mention that tying the whipping knot of the D-rig can be slightly complicated for some people, but if you don't want to do that and you're not worried about male pride of tying your own rigs, then that's exactly why we developed the brilliant ready tied versions of the Iqd rig. You can literally buy them in a packet, and as Dan showed so well, that's quite a good fish, isn't it?
Fish, that, mate, yeah. Not the little one that you tried to bag us with at the start.
God, I'll tell you what, mate, that's a cheese.
It's one of them, mate.
That's big for it.
I might lose it. It might be a little one, probably small.
As Dan showed so well at Carpasons, they really are brilliant. And if you want to just use a ready tied one, get those ones and fish them with confidence. Super sharp curve hooks. I'm using the size 4. I really do prefer the larger curves. And you can see there a monster crab goo wafter on the high impact sticking out of its mouth. That is a lump.
And it's in the
Thank you very much. That is what the Iqd Rig does. Nails them to the ground every single time. Now, similarly to spooner, bait straight back out in the swim. Now this is important, the distance that you clip up. It's something I've actually learned a bit more about this year, by accident really. I was fishing up against an island and I had my fishing rod at 11 wraps, okay? So I was casting, I thought, oh, I might put a bit of spod out. Right, so I measured the spod rod to 11 wraps as well, and because I was fishing against an island, I could almost tell exactly, you know, how tight the spod was gonna land. And lo and behold, I've put the spod out and it landed half a rod length short. So basically, because of the spring in the mono, it's sort of stretching it out further, where because on your spod rod you're normally using braid, you don't get that same stretch. So pretty much when it hits the clip, it lands straight down. With the mono, what you end up doing is getting a little bit of stretch. So as it goes out, it tends to spring past the spot, and because we're only fishing in like 6 foot of water, what can happen is it will spring past and it hasn't got a chance to correct itself on the way down, because it will swing down and it's down. Okay, in deeper water, if you're hitting the clip reasonably hard, there's a chance it'll actually come back and it'll swing a little bit into you based on how you feel the lead down. So what I've started to do is when I sort of clip the rods up, quite simple really, I'll do the spod rod, bang on where the spot is if you like, which is 24 wraps, and then the fishing rods, because of the mono I've got on, I'll clip up at 23.5 wraps. So that ensures that I'm not fishing through the spot, I've not got bait landing on the lines, I'm literally fishing right up to the bait, bang on the money every time. Now the final point is how hard you hit your clip. I see a lot of people sometimes just touch the clip and put the rod down. It's fallen so far short, it's ridiculous, you know. The other thing is hitting the clip too hard, and what you end up is you either get a massive spring back, or in shallow water it springs well past your spot. So the key is to hit it nice, a good weight, so that you're on the money every time. So look, it's going out there, feather it a little bit, lovely, damp, just down, beautifully, and on the money. Can't say fairer than that. There we go, a few spods back on the money, the rod right on the spot, and time to enjoy my glorious Brasenose 2 prize, 26 pounds, 12 ounces, and you know what, they don't get much better looking than this, proper plump, proper big, glorious. Well, good morning. We got the rods out about half an hour ago, me and Spooner. We hadn't actually fished through the night just to get some kip. And I don't actually think the fish stay in this area during the night, to be honest. You keep a few around, but not many. And like I say, we put the bait out this morning at first light, about 10 spods, just to get the area ignited again. And put the rods out over the top, and then I've put about another 3 or 4 out just a little way down the line. And it's been out probably, I'd say, just about an hour now, the rods, and the first bite has come, and hopefully it won't be the last one, but it's really, really nice. That's the important thing, like we keep saying it, I don't want to feel like I'm drumming it home to you, but it is just that vital to keep the activity going, keeping the food in. You know, a lot of people, they don't know how many to start with at the start of a session. They think they need to you know, just put out a bucket load and then sit there. Other people think just to put out a few, you know, but the important thing is to keep the activity going. You know, I'd rather put in a bucket throughout a day than one in one hit. That's what I'd, you know, that's the best advice I can give you when it comes to baiting. So when I come to a typical lake like this, the first thing I'll do is find the spot that I'm happy with, somewhere that I know the baits are presentable. In this situation, there's that old road that Neil may have referenced while he was playing his first fish. It's an old road that sort of runs through that main body. it's at about sort of 23 to 25 wraps before it hits the sort of detritus and stuff on the bottom. And it's just a nice range, that is 96 yards. You need to put a little bit of body movement into it when you cast, but if you watch me and Spooner, we don't just stand there with our legs flat. We get our body into it to make the cast as simple as possible and to make sure we hit the clip every single time. And the same with the spod, you know, everything's clipped up. Like I say, spod slightly further than the fishing rods, half a rod length. And that's it. Once the marker goes out at the start of the session, it doesn't go out again, because we pick a tree line marker on the horizon. In this instance, I've got a tall bushy tree, and literally I've got a rod sort of halfway along it and one to the right. And then quite simply, once I've found the spot, the bait goes in. Start with sort of 10 or 12 medium-sized spods or the midi spom, and then after that it's just a matter of just keep ringing the dinner bell. Even if you're not getting bites, you know, just put 3 or 4 out. There's so many bits and pieces in that spod mix that we showed you, so much in that buffet, that little fish will break that down, you know. They'll be in and out all over it. So you're not just putting more bait on bait, you know, you're putting little bits in there. The little fish are whittling it away. You're squeezing little bits of goo into it to build sort of taste and everything else in the water column. And you're just getting it, you're revving it up constantly. And that's the important thing about this type of fishing. If you want bites, you've got to work at it. You can't just sit there and hope it happens. You've got to make it happen. And that's the critical factor. And we'll try to talk about hook baits a little more as we go, but the same as putting the right bait out, the same as the frequency of baiting, is choosing the right hook bait, you know. And that could be colour, but more importantly, taste. Colour and taste combined together is a proven deadly combination. I like to use the mainline wafters, the high impact ones, or the cell, the hybrid, the banoffee, those types of things. And then what I do is I just drizzle the different supreme goos over them, and I have my favourite combos, if you like. On this particular trip, me and Spooner are testing out some of the new ones that are out for release. You've got some real characters in there, if you like. You've got a crab one coming out. You know, monster crab needs no introduction into fishing. It's brilliant, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you a little bit more about the different blends and everything else. There's one that I'm quite proud to say I've named, Vindagoo. And as the name would suggest, that's a real spicy number. And you may have noticed that me and Spooner have been sort of putting a few drops of that in every spod, and that's to get the taste out there. And this one, once again, on a crab wafter. There we go. Job done. Hopefully that gave you a little insight into how we feed the swim and how we build it up and the quantities you need to use. And there you go. He didn't mind, did he? Well, there you go, an absolute stunner. As my old mate D Macy will say, not one of the biggest I've ever caught, but definitely one of the most beautiful. A real testimony to some of the glorious carp that are in Brasenose 2 now. The rods have gone back out, everything's primed once again. We're keeping busy, me and Spooner, and hopefully it won't be too long before I'm kissing another stunner like this. Mwah! Thank you, mate. Oh, yes. Lifting. Slow bite me up. Well, this is quite good timing as it goes, because it had gone slow for a little while. And it's very, very important when that does happen, if you have been putting the bait, to do something, change something. And what I actually did was wound the rod in, and I recast this one, re-gooed the hook bait, and I'm going to get my old mate Neil Spooner in, because we're going to have a chat about hook baits now, the sort of thought process behind what we use and why we do it. Come on, Spooner, get in. We're going to get the old net out, because we haven't got long left of this session, and it's the one topic we haven't really gone into in too much depth. People are probably bored of hearing about me and, you know, how I use goo and everything, but I know you've sort of quietly gone about your business with it over the last couple of years, and you use it a lot in your fishing, don't you?
In all of my fishing now.
Yeah.
Since it come out, I thought that why wouldn't you want at least your hook baits to be more attractive than everything else you're putting out there? It was a no-brainer.
Yep.
So from the very early days, I've had, you know, lots of different pots with some of the thinner goos like the Supremes, and, you know, cutting into the bait so that it's continually leaking off. I mean, the pineapple's been one of my favourites from the get-go.
The pineapple Supreme, that
the
is,
Supreme,
isn't it?
yeah,
Rather than the power smoke, yeah.
Yeah, power smoke's a bit different. I use the Supremes a hell of a lot for, you know, for getting, as I just said, getting me hook baits, whether they be pop-ups.
They penetrate, don't they? Because that's worth adding to people, because a lot of people don't realise, they think that they're either all the same or they're all like, there's this sort of, I don't know what the word is, like a mental block about them, but it's easy to explain. The Supremes penetrate into the bait. If it's got the word Supreme on it, means it's quite of a watery consistency, and they're the ones you love soaking your wafters and pop-ups in.
Anything I can, mate. I mean, you know, from when we first met the South Africans, had a really good in-depth discussion with them regarding it, be it a tiger nut, a wafter, a pop-up. The longer you leave and putting the Supremes on, it cuts right in, quite literally through to the core.
Right through to the core.
Right through to the
Let's
core.
walk this way, because this is going over to your line. We'll carry on this lovely chat, Spooner, before I wipe your lines out.
Yeah, well, yeah, not for the first time.
So, yeah, see, the Supremes soaking in.
Yeah, and then after that, they go up in, we've got the bait smokes, and then you've got the power smokes as well. Now, as you know as well as I do, there's quite a few different consistencies making their way through the range. It's not just as blatant as that's a thick one, that's a thin one. And I think that's another common misconception. But the thick ones especially, they come into their own sort of, I use them a lot on my stick, my PVA mixes, be it on the outside of a stick, actually in with the mixes as well. Just to give that, especially in this sort of fishing, as we've pointed out, we put out a large bed of bait, and there's a lot of everything in there. Yeah. And I want to get the bite as quick as I can.
The banger on the mash.
I want the bite to come as quick as possible. Yeah. And I think having my little hook.
Or dare I say it, Spooner? The nipple on the. You say the rest.
I'm not saying anything.
But yeah, I see what you mean. You've got a lot of food out there, a lot of signals, so that the actual bait, your orbit around your hook bait needs to be a signal that is so much more than everything else around it.
That's right, mate. They're all the bits we're putting into the Spod mix are giving off the stuff to draw the fish down to the area, but you still want to hone them to your hook bite. I mean, you know, you can look at a load of gravel on the deck and you can imagine one of those is your boilie, so you want it a different colour, different flavour. You said it, colour and taste are very, very important, especially when you mix them together.
You're short of time as well, Neil, aren't you? You don't have a lot of time in your fishing, so I presume having a hook bait that stands out 99.9% of the time for your fishing is critical.
It is, mate. A lot of my fishing's overnighters, so you know, in the hours of darkness as well. So I don't always have time to get on the fish and find them. So I want to believe that when I'm camped out, when I'm set up, that everything's out there working as much for me as possible. And the goo has been the perfect answer.
Yeah. Got you.
Oh, he looks all right, Al.
Yeah, it looks like a nice fish, that one. Yeah.
And now, since the new flavours are coming out, that I've been using them for a little while, and we're trialling them here. Yeah. A couple of them already.
The crab is spectacular. The vindaloo, you can tell with its spice factor.
When you taste it, I mean, it's so
fiery, mate, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's exactly like it says on the tin. The mango nana.
That's going to go down quickly. It's one of my favourites. It's already gone on to some mainline IB wafters, yellow in colour. I know it's a bit cliche, but having a fruity bait onto a yellow, but it just works for me. Especially, with winter time as well. A lot of my fishing's in the winter, my own personal fishing. And again, I've always liked that dulled yellow colour with plenty of leakage coming off of it. Seriously, you've got to give it a try. You've got to, I appreciate it, there's 24 in the range now, which is obviously a lot, and you probably can't have all 24 bottles on you. But you can
They're all unique though, aren't they? That's the thing, people don't realise. It's not just flavour that separates them, it's taste, it's different essential oils, different natural ingredients.
That's right. And
different pHs as well, that in different lakes, when you're fishing on, I'll tell you what, you want to get that net from me as well.
Mate, he's getting a bit close.
Yeah, I'll just carry on adding to what Spooner's going to say there. When different lakes are going to have different sort of acidities or alkalinity levels, and then quite simply having a hook bait that stands out, I liken it to walking into a lovely kitchen. Go on, fishy, get in that net. Walking into a kitchen or into a room and getting that big aroma of that lovely meal, and it just turns you on, doesn't it? Makes you hungry. Well done, mate. Thanks for that info.
Cheers,
mate. There we go, my old chum. A bronze bruiser from Brasenose. What do you say about that? Fish number 9, and the bites have kept coming, and it just shows if you put that beer can down and don't sit there staring at the rods, blaming your bait, getting on Twitter, blaming the rigs, it just shows if you put it in, the results are there to be had.
It does, mate. Look at the bites there. There was a few of the bites that we had that after just putting a spommer bait out, it was that they're looking for it, and when that noise coming in brings them back, just gives you that chance. Work at it,
That's dinner bell, dinner bell, dinner bell, carp.
You've been tuned into TFTV. Tackle, Fanatics stock an extensive range of Korda products at the best prices around. We'll stock a vast selection of end tackle from all the leading manufacturers. To view our range, log on to www.tacklefanatics.co.uk. Remember, Tackle Fanatics offer finance to make your tackle purchase more affordable. Tight lines and wet nets from everybody at TFTV.